Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Minnesota Vikings trade scenarios? And does Dalton Risner make an immediate impact? That's today on the Minnesota Football Party.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party.
It's a Reggie Wilson Mailbag Wednesday. Welcome in on Locked On Sports Minnesota. I'm Sam Ekstrom. I'm at Sam Ekstrom on X, tweeting about the Vikings, covering the Vikings here at Locked On Sports Minnesota, part of the Ron Johnson Show, the Minnesota Football Party as well. And I'm joined today by Luke Inman, back from vacation, right-hand man. He's at Luke_Spinman on X, and Reggie Wilson, KARE 11 Sports Director and anchor, joining us every Wednesday and Friday here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. What's up, fellas? Reggie, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Happy Wednesday. This week is getting by, man. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, middle of the week. We got Luke Spinman here. He's back. He's rejuvenated. He's refreshed. Let's talk some Vikings. What do you say, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's been a kind of a weird, goofy first 2 weeks for the Vikings, right? Because week one, a lot of preparation, a lot of hype, but then bang, bang, Thursday night, Philly. Now they start to get kind of into their normal routine, it feels like. So excited to get back into the normal action and talk a little bit of Vikes with you guys as well today.
Yeah, I feel like the fan base was in a bit of an 0-2 fog over the weekend, but now that it's the new week, they've come out of it, and I'm actually sensing a little bit of excitement now going forward to the Chargers game. Today's show brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedon or enter promo code LOCKEDON for a free water bottle with any purchase. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, I promise you. Plenty to talk about on today's show. We're taking your Twitter questions. We've got questions about Dalton Risner, Marcus Davenport, trade scenarios already at the deadline, how to fix this team, and how do you fix the run defense here against the 0-2 Chargers on Sunday. But I like this first question from Brian Jellerson. Who makes a more immediate impact, Dalton Risner or a healthy Marcus Davenport? Davenport aggravated the ankle issue after 4 snaps on Thursday, so he basically has not played for 2 weeks. We haven't seen what the Vikings can do with him in the mix on that defensive line. Dalton Risner signed officially yesterday, so that gives him 3 practices to try to get ready to play in this offense. Who can make the immediate impact? Reggie, we'll start with you.
So it's a bummer about Davenport, right? Because he was someone who they kind of brought in on like this pretty expensive, like prove it deal. And the knock on him was that he was injury prone. And before he even starts the season, you know, they had good luck last year with Za'Darius Smith, you know, with him coming off of his injury. But then, you know, you try to sign Davenport to the same thing, you know, same type of scenario. And sure enough, before the first game of the season and one of the last practices before the first game, he gets injured. And you're just like, come on. So he doesn't play week 1. He's out there in week 2, and then he's out quickly in week 2. If this becomes something that lingers, I just don't know what his impact is going to be. And, you know, we've seen Brian Flores find other ways to manufacture a rush. And so maybe they can overcome that, as they've kind of been doing through the first 2 weeks anyway. I look at a guy like Dalton Risner. So it was funny, you know, big Tuesday for community events for the Vikings, right? And Harrison Phillips is a huge, huge community guy. You know, I did a story on it last year about how he really pours into the community. And so he was at both of the Vikings community events yesterday, and he was asked about Dalton Risner. So funny enough, these guys have been friends since before college. They were recruited to play at K-State together. And so Reisner ended up going to K-State, and I guess they were right up there. Like, I think Harry had kind of I think he even committed to K-State, but didn't end up going there. And they've been friends for a long time. So he talked about how, when they were against each other, when he was in Buffalo and Reisner was in Denver, how, Reisner signed one of his jerseys over to him. So that's hanging up downstairs in his basement. He has a Dalton Risner jersey in his basement right now. And so he said he saw Dalton at the at the facility yesterday, and he's like, Dalton's like, hey, Harry, like, hey, can you just like come out with me? Like, I just need you. I haven't played football in a while. I just need you to run through my face a couple times just to like get me going, like, because it's been a while. And can you imagine someone being that jacked up to play that they're like, hey, come run through my face a couple times? Like, that sounds painful, but that's the type of guy that the Vikings just signed. And so what I read is a max 1-year contract of $4 million, 2.2 guaranteed. And so, like, you don't sign a guy like that unless you are hoping that he contributes right away. And so I look at someone like Ed Ingram on that line who has struggled since he's gotten into the league. And maybe he's on the hot seat. Maybe he will be replaced. I think it's kind of tough because they kind of drafted Ingram as one of their premium picks last year. But I think Reisner presents a little bit of an upgrade there based on how Ingram is played. So I think Reisner has a little bit more of an impact right away than Davenport does.
Yeah, a lot of good cases you made. Until I see what the game plan is and know, where he's going to line up, whose spot he's taking over for, it's just tough to predict how much of an impact he's going to have right away. Because right now you still don't know if he's going to be brought in to maybe still be a depth guy or a backup plan B. I know the $2.5 to $4 million contract, that obviously suggests he's going to be a starter, but I got to see what it looks like first. Davenport, on the other hand, I still think when fully healthy, and you're right, Reg, like he's got to get healthy and prove he can string together here 8, 10, 12 games. But in this system under Brian Flores, I still think he could be a real impact player off the edge and inside with his hand in the dirt, which we saw him line up all throughout training camp and OTAs and things like that. We saw that versatility. So we talked about it all offseason. The sack production, it was non-existent in New Orleans last year. But when you look at the pressures, he's just a dude who's could be the perfect complement to Danielle Hunter, help fill the void of Za'Darius Smith, not only as a solid run defender, which they desperately need right now, but just that little spark on third down, getting off the edge after the quarterback, who's got a little bit more juice, I think, than what we've seen from guys like Patrick Jones and DJ Wanham thus far. I know last week, Patrick Jones had the worst pass rush PFF grade on the team. And I know in week 1, Wanham had the second lowest on defense. So they need Davenport healthy and explosive. And I think by the end of the season, when we finally look back, I think he could still live up to that hefty $7 or $8 million deal they spent on him, thanks to the way Brian Flores uses him all over the defense.
Yeah, I'm ready to put out the Andre Carter bat signal, the way that these depth guys have played the first couple of weeks. Yeah, DJ Wanham and Patrick Jones were given really, I think, I don't know if it was a free pass, but they weren't really challenged that much. I thought the Vikings might add a little more depth at pass rusher to compete for those third and fourth roles, and they didn't. They just rolled with Wanham. When Davenport was out, when Danielle was out, those guys were playing with the ones, and the Vikings trusted them to take the next step. And so far, they haven't. They produced 4 combined pressures in 2 games. And when you blitz as much as the Vikings do with Flores, which is number 1 in the league right now, 49%. The goal is to get one-on-one matchups, to get your best pass rushers in advantageous situations if guys are scrambling to pick up blitzes. But what are the Vikings at in pressure? 22nd. They're 22nd in pressure rate and first in blitz rate. The math's not working there. Something's got to change. The guys aren't winning these matchups. And I think that their edge rushers are a big reason why. I thought Davenport had a phenomenal camp. And the fact that he gets hurt the Friday before the first game is so unfortunate. And I guess that's part of his resume. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. And I thought that if they could make him into an 800 snap guy this year, by far the most of his career, I thought he could be like a 60, 70 pressure guy because his pressure rates are very good. I think Davenport helps change the pressure rate. I think he gets close. I can't say he gets home because he does have a history of not getting sacks, but I think he applies that pressure more regularly than a Wanham or a Patrick Jones. Reisner, I've just got a hard time believing he plays this week. So in terms of immediacy, I think it's Davenport. I think Davenport plays 10 days off that ankle aggravation. I don't know if Reisner plays. I mean, they might need more than 3 practices. I don't know how in tuned he is with this offense. I know he's in tune with Chris Cooper, the offensive line coach, but that doesn't always translate to what the offense actually needs from him. Just quickly, Luke, do you think is this a run blocking play? Is this a pass protection play? Because he's very good in pass pro, not as much in run blocking, which is where they've immensely struggled. But do you think this is just a matter of Ingram is super vulnerable right now? We can't trust him. We need someone who can keep Kirk upright. Is it as simple as that?
I think it's that. I think it's the fact that, hey, this is clearly the best. If we're going to go get somebody, right? And they've obviously dealt with a lot of injuries as well, which I think plays a huge factor. Still waiting for Chris Reed. Not a lot of help on the interior right now. Not a lot of options just in your back pocket. If another injury happened, Oli Udoh goes down for the year. They brought in Quessenberry. There's been a lot of movement going on this offensive line, on this unit, especially in the interior. The last 3-4 weeks leading up to the season didn't really ever make you feel great about heading into week 1. Now you got the Oli Udoh injury as well. I think they just looked at their options and said, this guy, when you look at the next best guy, there's such a huge drop off. Maybe we should go take a stab at this guy now. And what's the worst case? We end up spending 2.5, 3, maybe $4 million, worst case, by the end of the year, just to help keep Kirk upright. And more importantly, give Kirk a running game finally. Hopefully, that's the plan anyways. I just think they looked at the risk reward and said it can't hurt. We can't repeat 2022 and have the run inefficiencies that we had last year, as well as the quarterback hits as well. If we're going to go take a stab on a guy, clearly Dalton Risner is the best guy to go attack and try to go sign. And boy, that would just leave a terrible pit in your stomach if you waited a week too long and one of the other 31 teams ended up scooping him up. So I don't think it's as black and white as say, okay, this guy's a great run blocker. He's going to help us in that department. I think he's just a good player and a good option out there when you look at the rest of the options in free agency. Again, I got to see how it all plays out, just like you, Sam. I don't know what the game plan is. I think at the end of the day, though, you sleep a little bit better knowing you got Dalton Risner in the equation somewhere.
Yeah, I like that as well. Also looking at the stats, Reg, I've like my gut tells me that Kirk Cousins has been pressured a lot through 2 games. I look at the stats. His pressure rate is 13th in the league out of 33 qualified quarterbacks. Like, it's actually not as bad as maybe it seems on paper. I still don't think it's been great, but I think that if they could improve this one, because I think Ingram is the weak link right now. You improve that, you might have a decent pass protecting line to keep Kirk Cousins off the ground. And the way he's been fumbling, it's pretty important to keep guys away from him right now.
Yeah, and that's the tough part. It's so funny how so many people have blamed some of those things on Kirk Cousins. And I'm like, yo, like the first game, Antoine Winfield came screaming around, and it's just like Kirk couldn't even see that coming. And then that second one in the Philly game is just, look, man, he's getting hit like crazy, and people are like, hold on to the ball. And it's like, yeah, you try getting hit by these dudes like at a high rate of speed and holding on to the football. Like, yeah, that's an idea. That's a concept. You try it. Let's see how it works out for you. And so I think it's just really tough because, he was mic'd up in that first game. And I still remember Jefferson being like, hey, you good? You good? He's like, oh, I'm getting hit a lot. And it's like, here we go again. Everything we saw. I think it was something that I said on Care 11, I think last week. I think he built up like empathy and sympathy from the national audience and quarterback because they saw what a beating he took. And I think we kind of saw it, but because the Vikings were doing well, I don't think we really I don't know. We didn't really focus on that. And it wasn't until you watch quarterback that you were like, dang, this dude was getting like beat up. And then you start the season and it kind of seems like an extension of last year. And Bradbury goes down, And now you're dealing with the backup center and Ingram, who you're hoping takes a step forward. Like, he's still allowing too many pressures. And then the run game is just putrid. I don't know if, like, I remember when I was in Cincinnati. I was in Cincinnati, and Zach Taylor was running a similar run game to what Kevin O'Connell is running right now. And it just wasn't working. They had Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, and it just wasn't working. And there was, I think it was like week 6, 7, something like that. He just went and he ripped up the run game. Like, he ripped up the whole thing and installed a whole different run scheme. And it worked. Like, the Bengals started moving the ball on the ground. And I think Kevin O'Connell might need to, like, he might have to do that. Like, it's not working. We saw, so as Luke said, so many inefficiencies in the run game last year. They've carried over plus that this year, because last year you were bailed out because Dalvin would just break one. And you're like, oh, wow. Okay, they're doing fine. But, like, there are so many times where the ball carrier is getting touched and hit behind the line of scrimmage. And then now you're seeing Kevin O'Connell run the screen game, trying to just get the defense off, back them off a little bit. And then those don't work. And so, something's not working there. And I think they need to maybe reevaluate the whole, like, scheme, because they're just going to keep getting Kirk Cousins killed back there if they can't find any balance on this offense.
Yeah, the juxtaposition between the Vikings run game and the Eagles run game was stark on Thursday. So something's got to change there. You're absolutely right, Reggie. After this word from Birddogs, we're going to give you some trade scenarios already in week 3. Yes, we've got them. But I want to tell you today about Birddogs. What does playing golf have in common with doing yard work or going on a date or lounging around the house or going to the gym? You can wear your Birddogs to all those things. They're so versatile. They're so comfortable. They're better fitting than Lululemon. They've got that liner that keeps you cool and dry, the anti-stink sweat-wicking fabric. They've got the cloud knit fabric that's so comfortable. It looks like khaki. It feels amazing on your legs. Right now, I've got the pants with the liner. Maybe later today, it's going to be 84. I'll switch into the shorts. Got the pants, got the shorts. And you can also get the water bottle by going to birddogs.com/lockedon. With any purchase, you get a free water bottle. It's as easy as that. birddogs.com/lockedon. Use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Get the free water bottle with your order. Birddogs. You're not going to want to take these off ever. I promise you. Thanks again for tuning in today on Locked On Sports Minnesota. We're going to talk trade scenarios. We're going to talk about fixing the run defense. Make sure you also check out our partners at SiriusXM, the SXM app. You can catch all the local hometown broadcasts there. Vikings games on Sundays or during the week. Twins games matinee today in Cincinnati. Here, Corey Provis on the call, 11:35 Central on the SXM app. Just search Twins. And a programming note, tomorrow on the Minnesota Football Party, we'll have Arif Hassan, Luke Braun making our week 3 gambling wagers, and Ron Johnson will make an appearance as well. So look forward to that. And that audio for those big roundtables can be found on the Locked On Vikings audio feed. All right, question from Swede Skoll. Give me some TJ Hawkinson style trades to make this year before the deadline that would fix an issue on this team and be worth giving up draft capital. This is juicy. Sometimes it's hard to know exactly who's going to be in sell mode. But Luke Inman, you've studied, I've studied, I've got a name or two. Luke, why don't you take it away? What do you got?
Yeah, okay. So this guy, I'm a draft nerd, right? I don't like giving up all my premium draft picks, guys. As much as we love TJ Hawkinson, and we would do that trade 100 out of 100 times, that was tough to sit there on day 2 and watch that full second round go by with no draft pick. I found a guy, maybe not as big of a name as TJ Hawkinson, but I still think could make a huge impact for us. And you could probably get him at half the price too, which is obviously great to keep as much draft capital as possible. Right now, most people couldn't name, well, let's see if you guys can. Can you guys name more than 2 Rams defenders right now? Because they've absolutely gutted that roster and lineup over the past 2 years. Two guys, anybody? Aaron Donald and
Aaron Donald.
and, you get one for free.
Is Vaughn gone? Where's he with? Where's he Buffalo now? Von Miller?
Yeah.
Okay,
And then Bobby Wagner was kind of always the other easy one, but he's back in Seattle now, so that's kind of a tough one.
Dang.
Anybody? Like, it's tough, right? It's tough. Nothing.
Dang,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I got nothing.
There's a guy in the trenches who came out in 2020. He was a UDFA. His name's Jonah Williams, not to be confused with the top 10 pick for the Bengals, Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle. He's been absolutely balling out as a 3-4 defensive end, fits that Brian Flores mold, 3-4 defense under Bill Belichick. And where he's excelled at the most this year through 2 weeks is the run game. I pulled this stat up this morning. ESPN run stop win rate for defensive tackles this year as a 5-tech. He's tied for 4th in the league with 10 run stops in 21 run plays. That's a 48% win rate, which is absolutely phenomenal. So he's decently young. He's 28 years old, but more importantly, he's only got 2 full years of tread on the tires. He hasn't even logged 500 snaps in the league yet. So if you get the guy we've seen so far through these first 2 weeks, I think just like TJ Hawkinson, he's a guy who could come in, be a new cornerstone for this team, kind of a building block on that defensive line. Not to mention, most importantly, you probably get him for a fraction of the cost compared to what you had to spend on Hawkinson, because the way the Rams are building their team right now, just from a front office lens, I think even just an early day 3 pick, maybe a 4th rounder at most, he could probably be had for. And just that extra body alone, that could make a huge difference in the Vikings run defense. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but they need as much help in this running game on the defensive line as possible. So Jonah Williams, think about that name as maybe an option for some sort of trade like that TJ Hawkinson one we saw last year.
I like that. It's splashy. Reggie, you got one?
Now that they have signed Dalton Risner, one that I was thinking about probably is null and void right now, but before Dalton Risner, I was thinking you trade whatever you need to for a Quentin Nelson in Indianapolis. Yeah, like the Colts are doing well and they need all the protection because Anthony Richardson just continues to get injured week after week, which is weird. And, first week took a big hit, second week got a concussion. So they need to continue to protect him. But at the same time, a guy like that would definitely be an upgrade, and you would just whatever you want, like, just here you go. He's a grinder, he's a mauler out there. So really like him. But other than that, like, I don't know who they would pick up that would necessarily be like, oh wow, like this guy would make an immediate impact. Like, you think of maybe like pass rush, maybe you see what the price is for a guy like Chase Young.
That's interesting.
I love the Quentin Nelson idea. I had such a huge crush on him coming out of the draft in that draft class. He was an absolute baller. He started out so red hot. I know he's kind of fizzled a little bit because of injuries. That team just in general has been kind of atrocious the last 2 seasons as well. But that's a good thing as far as stock goes. Maybe you could get him on a little bit cheaper. 3 years ago, you'd have to give up like 3 first rounds for that guy. That's how dominant he was. That's how good he was, even as a guard. Maybe now you can get him for a 1st and a 2nd round pick. I think that would be well worth the price. When's the last time the Vikings have had a dominant deep offensive line? It's been a minute, guys.
Yeah, or you could think about there's a guy right now going through a contract situation in Carolina. They're going nowhere right now. Brian Burns.
Mm-hmm.
Bring him in. Let him work.
What if we go just a step inside of Brian Burns and we get one of the best defensive tackles in all of pro football? Derek Brown. Now, the way that Kwesi has used trades so far, he prefers getting guys that are high pedigree, right, in terms of draft status, and he likes getting multiple years of team control. And with Hawkinson, it turned into a long-term relationship. So someone like Quentin Nelson, right? Like Reisner is a rental. Reisner is a 1-year guy, I think. Quentin Nelson could be long-term. Derek Brown, that'd be a long-term relationship. You'd have him for this year. You would have him for next year with the 5th-year option, same as Hawkinson. Number 7 defensive tackle in football last year. Very durable, very talented. And again, I'm looking at that Panthers roster and I'm saying they're 0-2. They're going nowhere. I think they need, it's kind of like the Lions, right? Like the Lions used a couple years of trades to build up their assets. They needed more than one big draft. They needed a few big drafts. Carolina might be able to work the Vikings for a 1 or 2 for Derek Brown. I mean, one of the best young defensive tackles in football. Luke, you're the draft guy. What do you think that's worth?
Derek Brown, what do I think he's worth? Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Well, right now, and I know they play 2 different positions, but right now, they're not giving up, even fielding phone calls for anything more than 2 first-rounders for Brian Burns. And I know Derek Brown, different position, but you just mentioned some great stats. I mentioned Jonah Williams ranks 4th right now in run-stop win rate. Derek Brown ranks 3rd. I mean, he's top 3 right now. He's dominant. He's that good. I just think probably 2 first-rounders is probably what you're going to have to. Yeah, well, he's so young. You just laid out a plethora of reasons. Why would the Carolina Panthers, who, yes, maybe a little rebuild mode, but now that they just mortgaged the future for this, number 1 overall pick and they got their quarterback, they don't want to start giving up pieces too easily unless they feel like they've got the depth. They can make do with some other young bodies back there and use that ammo to go get Bryce Young some real weapons, which is also what he needs. So if you're going to mortgage the future on a quarterback, I always say you better surround him with some help and some talent. Don't go the David Carr route the Houston Texans went. You ended up getting sacked the most in NFL history because they didn't provide him with an offensive line and enough weapons around him. So I think 2 first-rounders, man. I think that's where the conversation starts for a guy like Derek Brown. But
all right,
is he worth it?
Did you see him running he went into the tunnel after Michael Thomas after the game?
I heard about
Monday.
it. Yeah.
And they kind of got into a little bit of a scuffle.
Yeah.
He's a
you
fiery
want that swag,
guy.
though. You want that energy, right? You want that passion. Give me one of those guys for sure. Hey, first-round picks. Everybody loves first-round picks because it's the unknown factor, right? Like you never know who could be the next Randy Moss, right? But statistically, 1 in every 3 first-round picks pan out. So that means 2/3 of these guys don't end up really panning out and lasting as long as you think and giving you the production that you're hoping you're going to get. So if you can prove those, or if you can trade those for proven stock, right? For guys who have already proven their worth in the league, maybe it's not that bad of an idea, really, at the end of the day.
If the Vikings didn't need that first-round pick to, draft the quarterback of the future, I'd be all for it. Like to have a dude on the interior, first time since Sharif Floyd, how nice would that be?
They miss Dalvin Tomlinson like
big time,
tremendously, and somebody like that would help them. But at the same time, now you look at another guy that you're going to have to pay in like a year or 2, and you're just like, okay, there's only so much money to go around. But if you eject said quarterback from the equation and pick up like a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, then maybe you can do that.
What about another Panthers guy for a little less?
We just want to pick them all apart, huh?
You want to bring
Adam Thielen back?
Adam John, no. Chuba Hubbard. The running game needs a spark right now. What's a backup running back cost in a trade, right? It's going to be like probably I would think late 3rd round. Chuba Hubbard is, rookie deal. That's what you want. 2 years of team control. Off to a really good start this season. Was a 5 yards per carry guy last year. Can catch the ball a little bit. And I know they've got Gaskin. Gaskin was kind of that play. So maybe they already have the guy in the building they want. But Chuba for a 6th, if you had another injury, like if something happened to a Chandler or a Madison or a Gaskin, Chuba at the deadline. Bring him in.
You just like saying Chuba. Come on, dude.
They're not booing, they're chubing.
Hey, how about our Puka Nacua call out, huh? Earlier in draft season? Has that dude been balling out or what?
he's going to break all of Cooper Kupp's team records. Like they've decided.
Can't even fathom that, right?
He's going to get
sense.
all the targets.
Yeah.
He's on pace for 180 targets, something like that.
Puka Doncic.
Ooh, I love that.
I like that.
Does he have a nickname yet? I think you
mean,
got to have a
Puka,
good nickname.
With a name like Puka, you don't even need a nickname.
Do you need one at that
first
point?
name only? Can he do
Yeah.
the first name only on the back of his jersey like the soccer stars?
Exactly.
Yeah, one name, Puka. Good find by the Rams, though. And he might be the only receiver on their roster. I can't confirm, but he might be the only one.
Yes. Yeah. Just
No,
clone him.
Tutu Atwell.
Tutu,
They were-
Skowronek, the big, kind of boundary guy, but yeah, not a lot going
Van
on.
Jefferson
Van
is
Jefferson,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is.
By the way,
and
still waiting for either of you guys to mention just one other Rams defender, Aaron Donald.
Dude,
and
stop
you got
challenging
options.
us to do that. I don't want to do that. It's funny because
is Ramsey gone?
Long
10
gone,
years
dude.
ago, 10 years ago, I could name you every player on the Rams roster. And now I don't even care.
Reggie, were you upset when the Rams were playing the Vikings in 15 and the Vikings beat them in overtime? Was that upsetting to Reggie at
Absolutely.
that time in his life?
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? You deserved it because LaMarcus Joyner knocked out Teddy Bridgewater, and we were really upset.
They're friends too. That was the tough part. They grew up together.
Yeah.
He felt bad about it.
No class.
He felt bad.
Mike
about
Zimmer
it.
wanted to fight
Mike
Jeff Fisher.
Zimmer's head was about to pop off his body and roll out to the 50-yard
He
line.
wanted
Oh
to
my
knock his
gosh.
stash off.
Oh my
He wanted
gosh.
to-
Guess who signed with the Rams? Backup cornerback. Those aren't Booze. Those are Duke Shelley. Wow.
Oh yeah, I could have said that. Yeah.
Forgot about that.
That was the second defender.
I mean,
got.
that for sure deserves one of these.
He's been there though. He's been there for like a week or more.
Any opportunity Sam gets.
Yeah, that's the bit on the show. We got to fix the Vikings run defense. In closing, the question courtesy of Michael Chow, good friend of the show. How do you think B-Flow adjusts to the poor run defense from the last game? Was it bad because of the strong Philly O-line or bad because of the personnel and play calling? And will they naturally overcompensate and play great run defense and give up 400 air yards on Sunday? That's definitely a possibility, Michael. But Reggie, what do you think?
I know that he is capable. This is like one of the first like real adverse situations of his young Vikings tenure. And they hired him because of his ability to make adjustments and his ability to figure things out and scheme things up, because it seemed like every week Ed Donatel was just like, all right, here's the game plan. Same as last week. Just try to execute better. Okay. All right. Ready, break. And Brian Flores seems a little bit more nuanced than that. And so I think they're banking on him being able to help that, which it's interesting because Austin Eckler may or may not play, missed last week. That dude is a menace back there. So trying to stop him is going to be really tough. But beyond that, they bring a little bit more of a high-powered offensive attack as far as the passing game to the bank. You know, I mean, the Eagles, the Eagles seem to play it a little vanilla when it came to their passing game on Thursday. But the Chargers, man, like, you know, they went up against one of the tougher defenses in the NFL with the Titans. And, you know, they scored 2 touchdowns against them. But, like, this is an offense that's built to, like, do it. My draft crush, Quentin Johnston, haven't heard his name much through the first 2 weeks. He could be someone that could cause some problems in week 3 against the Vikings. So I understand the question was about the run defense, but they may have bigger problems on Sunday.
Yeah, look at that Eagles game, man. That was like the perfect storm because you got the best offensive line in the league and the best rushing attack lined up against a defense that just based off your alignment, right, the personnel, you're just gifting this Eagles team 5 yards minimum every rush, because when you're in that 3-3-5 look with 5 DBs on the field, it's almost like taking candy from a baby. In fact, you go back and watch some of the tapes, some of those reps, they only had 2 down linemen, which again is just begging the Eagles just run it right down your throat. And I get it. This is like Flores' base defense now. We're all going to kind of have to get used to that with all the 3 safety looks, and it's got its advantages. There's definitely a lot of good things about that, especially versus the pass. But when you're going up against a rushing attack as good as the Eagles have, you're basically just gift wrapping them easy chunks on the ground every time you line up in that package. I was just shocked they didn't make a bigger adjustment earlier in the game after those first few drives, just getting steamrolled like they did. So especially like you think about Ivan Pace, who no bigger fan of Ivan Pace than myself right here. And as much as he's made such a huge impact in the pass rush, especially for an undrafted rookie, obviously, it's just been an absolute baller. But when you put a guy like that, of that stature, 5'10", 225, in the middle of your defense, and then you let an interior lineman just come untouched off the snap, can just walk up to the second level like they did time and time again. I mean, even a guy as good as Ivan Pace, he's just got no shot because of the size mismatch. So he's just going to get swallowed up, and he's going to lose that match 4 out of 5 times. So for me, I think it boils down to Brian Flores just at least just lining up with more beef up front, more standard 3-4 or 4-3. Doesn't really matter which one, but get some more defensive linemen in the game just to give yourself a fighter's chance. That's the easy fix. But then B, the linemen you do throw out there, they got to be able to hold up against the run. They got to be able to hold their gaps better. The run bits have to be clean, things like that. They just got to be better. And right now, guys like Dean Lowry, they've been playing way below average. In fact, PFF grades have been pretty close to atrocious the last 2 games. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was something I was always concerned about. The minute they brought him in to replace who we were just talking about, a guy like Dalvin Tomlinson, who was so good. So even when they get into some of those bigger packages with more size and more strengths on running downs, I'm not sure they got the talent right now, guys, to hold up and force those teams into 3rd and long situations where then Flores can dial up all the fun blitzes and make all his money. But Lowry, Bullard, Tonga, even through 2 games, I know it's only 2 games, I get it, but they've all been below average right now in the running game. So I don't know what you do unless a guy like Jaquelin Roy comes in and some sort of big difference, which would be great. Who knows? Otherwise, this run defense, it may just be a below average unit this season, because they didn't really take it serious enough. Maybe in the offseason, they didn't invest enough money and resources to really fix the issues that they ended last year, which I don't need to remind anybody, it was one of the worst run defenses in the league last year under Ed Donatel, and that was with Dalvin Tomlinson. So get out of that 3-3-5 and the 3 safety look, at least on some early downs. That's going to help absolutely. But when they do get into those, do or die situations throughout the year, 3rd and short, 4th and inches at the goal line, more times than not, I don't feel great, I'll put it that way, about their personnel holding up, unfortunately, against some of the better offensive linemen in the league.
Yeah, I tweeted this 2 days ago. I'll regurgitate it here. Harrison Phillips, 3 pressures, 9 run stops through 2 games. Very good. The other 3, Lowry, Tonga, Bullard, 0 pressures and 5 run stops. And like Luke said, you don't really have a play there. Like Jaquelin Roy, the rookie, is your only play. You don't have a lot of options to come in and save the day. I would like to see a little more Tonga. I think he's gotten the short end of the stick. I'd like to see him maybe in place of Bullard a little more, give some more beef up the middle. There's not a lot of options. I do wonder, and this is just me talking out loud, if the 50% blitz rate scrambles the run fits at all. When you've got so much happening in terms of pass rush that if they're catching you in a blitz and they're running the ball, I wonder how that's actually working out in terms of run discipline.
It's a fair question. Sometimes there is things, though, that end up turning into, hey, we called a pass blitz, but it turned into a run blitz. You're still sending extra guys.
It worked.
More times than not, it should still help anyways. You got guys moving downhill towards the ball carrier. That
makes it worse. That makes it worse that they're this bad.
It does. Hey, remember, I mean, what was it? I guess it was last draft, not this last draft, but 2 years ago. I was the guy banging the table for Jordan Davis, before they traded all the way back for another safety. I wanted Jordan Davis. Imagine the difference this defensive line would feel like if they had that just big run stuffing nose tackle to help open up plays for everybody else right now.
Reggie Wilson, tell us what's happening at Care 11 tonight.
Hey, man, we are going to be live at Target Center talking Lynx Game 3. Win or go home. I guess it's win or stay
Lynx.
home. Yeah. And so they're trying to spoil Connecticut. Like Connecticut, they have championship ambitions. And so they're trying to play spoiler. So we're talking about that, and we'll be there for the whole game and live reports after the game as well. So that's the big story. Julia will be at Vikings today as they get ready for the Chargers on Sunday. So pretty busy day in the Care 11 sports world. And
I just learned, I texted a buddy last night, I just learned that in the WNBA, the underdog team gets Game 3 at home, the deciding game. That's a little unique, but kind of cool.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. See if the home crowd helps them. Because
I said on this show, Lynx 200-1 to win the NBA title with the best coach in the league, Cheryl Reeve. That's a great bet, easy money. Got to win tonight to pay it off, and then win 2 more series after that. Reggie Wilson at Reggie Wilson TV, Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. I'm Sam Ekstrom at Sam Ekstrom. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow, Minnesota Football Party returns with Arif Hassan, Luke Braun, and Ron Johnson. Until then, saying so long on the Minnesota Football Party.
Be blessed. Spread love.